Hello and welcome to Smaulgld. In case you missed it, top gold and silver and crypto stories for the week ended January 7th, 2018. Well, will 2018 be the year of a global currency? We are seeing now once again that 1988 economists cover back in focus. We're going to discuss that story. 100 million tons of silver reserves were found in China. We're going to discuss that. Bernanke banker coin Ripple pauses its ascent. Venezuela, one of the world's larger oil-producing nations, runs out of gasoline. And gold in a record run. Soon-to-be Fed Chairman Jerome Powell admitted in 2012 that basically the Fed rigs markets, or says that they help boost them or encourage people to take risks. Global debt hit a record $233 trillion. And the yuan-denominated oil futures contract back in the news, as it's said to be near ready to launch on January 18th. However, there's been no mention, and don't expect there to be any gold backing or exchange ability of the yuan. Also, China in the news. China's backed Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is said to be planning on issuing dollar-denominated bonds. And U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions decides to go after states that have legalized marijuana. Let's get to the stories. First of all, gold closed the week up again at 13.18, up 1.3%. And gold had an 11-session run, which was a record, and it was the longest winning streak on record. It wasn't the biggest gain in gold. Didn't rise that much, but it was slow and steady grind higher. So it's important to note that as we start 2018 above $1,300. Silver managed to poke its head above $17 during the week and closed at $17.16, up 1.5%. The gold-silver ratio ended the week close to 77-1, although gold didn't rise as much as silver, so we did see a bit of a decline in the gold-silver ratio. Now, Moronica. These are some of the things that I found somewhat ridiculous or just downright stupid during the week. The first was Twitter's policy. Twitter has a new policy where basically they don't like what you say, they find it offensive or racist or hateful, whatever ism they determine that your speech violates, they could take down your account. Well, a lot of what President Trump says or tweets can be deemed under Twitter's rules to fall under the category of why he should have his account terminated. And people are asking, how come you allow his stuff up? And Twitter basically responds, but not by calling out Donald Trump, by saying blocking a world leader from Twitter or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information people should be able to see and debate. Well, first of all, it doesn't make it... Anybody should be able to say important and controversial things. And why would a world leader somehow have more free speech to say what they want to say, which they may deem to be important, but anybody else, it would be considered not important enough such that we need to have it on Twitter, so we're going to boot it. And then they actually gave their real point of view. It would also not silence the leader. That's what they really want to do, because they realize that the leader, if it was Donald Trump, he would just go on to Facebook, or he'd go on to Instagram, or more likely go on to Gab. Well, basically, if they can't achieve their goal of shutting up a world leader, because they know they can shut us up, they can shut up people that aren't world leaders, they just boot your account off and you're done. But they realize, well, we can't really boot off Donald Trump, so what are we going to do? Now, that to me is one of the dumbest policies I've seen. The only smart thing about it is them admitting that the reason they're really not booting Donald Trump or anyone off Twitter for saying things they find offensive is they know it would be ineffective. Otherwise, if they knew they were the only platform that Donald Trump had to spew what they deemed hateful or racist or sexist or misogynist or whatever it is that they thought it would be, they would clearly have him booted. I'm not going to cover Jake Tapper's stupidity during the week. You can read that tweet on your leave. Now, here's Bernie Sanders. Mr. Trump, listen to these patriotic millionaires who want their taxes raised, not cut. This one I've never understood. Why anybody would want taxes increased at the federal level. Could possibly understand you want taxes increased at the local level because that money gets spent directly in your community, on schools, fire, whatever. But when the money goes to the federal government, it is a black hole. Federal government has $1 trillion deficit. It has a cumulative deficit into tens of trillions. Taxes aren't going to make one bit of difference other than making somebody feel good that a millionaire or a billionaire has to pay more taxes. That money doesn't make a spit of difference. So why would you want the money to go to the government? Now, what makes it even more stupid, Mr. Sanders, is why would you want a Trump government, whom you're opposed, to have more money from taxes, which would mean they'd have more power to spend money on stuff that you don't want them to spend it on? Not that they spend it from taxes, because there's already a deficit. They spend it on, they spend the money mostly from borrowing. They make up the difference in borrowing. So I've never understood why anyone would want someone to pay more taxes. Now, the people, these patriotic millionaires, they don't want to pay more taxes. Nothing's stopping them from paying more taxes. They can virtue signal and make videos about how they should pay more. Then go ahead and pay more. Bernie Sanders can donate a couple of houses if he wants. I'm sure he can sell them. Government would be happy to take the money. I don't know what they do with it, but now here's one that's not, from my perspective, stupid, but just downright objectively stupid. These thieves went in and stole a bottle of vodka. All right, I can see if somebody's thirsty. They want a little vodka. They go in, they steal a bottle. It's not the smartest thing you can do, but I read that they sold $1 million bottle of vodka. And I thought, how can you have $1 million bottle of vodka? I mean, you distill potatoes, you distill whatever it is that you use to make vodka. And they do make vodka from a variety of different grains, potatoes being one of them in Poland. There's even Tiro, which is they use grapes. So, but in any event, a vodka bottle can't be $1 million. Even wine bottles, which requires... What happened was, the bottle that they stole wasn't that they had the best vodka in it, is that the bottle itself was worth a lot of money. So you see, they could have stolen the Grey Goose, which is a good vodka from France, Belvedere, great vodka from Poland, the Shiro one. There's all these nice vodkas around what they stole. Even Absolute from Sweden's fine. But they stole this one because I guess the bottle was attractive looking. Well, the reason the bottle's attractive, it's got gold and diamonds on it. It's not the best vodka. Anyway, they stole the bottle, they gurgled it down, and then left the bottle. So these thieves drank probably $10, $15 worth of vodka and left $1 million, after stealing it, and left $1 million bottle behind. All right, now here's the astounding thing about our incoming Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. They released the minutes from 2012. One of the things the Fed does is they don't release the minutes for 5 years so people can speak freely. You have no idea what the Fed's doing, what they're talking about until 5, 6 years later. Anyway, in that meeting, Jerome Powell said this. I think we're actually, this is during the middle of QE, I think we're actually at a point of encouraging risk-taking, and that should give us pause. Investors really do understand that we are now there to prevent serious losses. It's not that easy for them to make money, but they now have every incentive to take more risk, and they're doing so. Meanwhile, we look like we are blowing a fixed income duration bubble right across the credit spectrum that will result in big losses when rates come up down the road. You can almost say that is our strategy. No, not almost say, that is your strategy. That was your strategy. That's what they did for 5 years, basically to boost asset prices. And this ties into my theory that I've been saying all along. You're not rewarded for good investment decisions, but you're rewarded for doing what the Fed wants you to do, whether it was to buy housing from 2009 onward, to buy stocks 2009, or speculative stocks, garbage stocks that don't make any money. Doesn't matter. If the Fed wants you to do it, you were rewarded. You were not rewarded when they did not want you to buy gold and silver. And you can see those, the assets that they don't like didn't perform well, and then the assets that they encourage did well. That's interesting that Ripple, Ben Bernanke actually went to a conference, a Ripple conference back in October, and he says he doesn't like Bitcoin, he likes blockchain, and he likes Ripple. So Ripple had a big week, even though Ripple is not a traditional cryptocurrency in that it is a centralized blockchain. It's got billions and billions of tokens and issuance. No banks use it yet. It went up. Anyway, now, if you want to see Powell's comments, you click here. I've got the Federal Reserve notes there. You can go to the Federal Reserve's website from that link. Now, this one I thought was very interesting. I always like when I don't like when the sycophants like to bow down to rich or successful people, and they try to say, oh, here's their secrets and this is what they do. And generally it's nothing that fancy. Sometimes it's just they got lucky. It's just a plain fact, but they like to create this aura. Anyway, what do Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, and other business titans have on their desk? And my response is direct numbers to congressmen and senators. Take that for what it's worth. All right. Now, internationalization of the Chinese yuan loses momentum. This is from the Nikkei Asian Review. Those who will remember, the Nikkei Asian Review is a story that said, game changer gold-backed yuan on the way. Well, a couple months ago, I wrote an article about how internationalization of the Chinese yuan was going to take some time. There were many impediments for it becoming a world currency, so to speak, or something that was used by a lot of countries and held in reserves. And, well, here is the Nikkei Asian Review recognizing that reality. Now, let's get into this global currency. Get ready for a world currency. This is a favorite alternative financial media meme. It's like Shemitah or dollar collapse, all these types of stories that you see repeated as fact. AC chain, SDR going to enslave humanity. They catch on, they get a life of their own. Well, this one's probably the biggest of them all. And this is the year 2018, Rothschilds and all the other nonsense that you hear. They're going to institute a world global currency. Maybe it's AC chain, maybe it's an SDR, maybe it's, who knows. They got the Phoenix on there, and this is proof. This magazine, it's proof that it's going to happen this year. And just like Shemitah was proof, these things come and go. Well, it's not going to go yet because you're going to hear a lot about this world reserve currency, world currency, whatever it is. And it's ridiculous because a world currency makes no sense from any point of view, and especially not from the elite point of view. Let me quickly explain why. See, first of all, a world currency, you lose the arbitrage, you lose the ability to manipulate on a number of different levels. One currency, it's not very interesting for purposes of making money. Also, gold and silver are global currencies from the perspective they're not issued by any particular government. Now, maybe Ripple will become a banker world currency. I don't know. But people promote this concept of world currency because it fits into the very simple clickbaiting meme that the elite are out there to dominate the world and they're going to do it through a global currency. No, they already do it through rigging and controlling all the central banks, all the currencies, and the markets. It's not about controlling, it's about controlling the board, not the pieces. They're fine the way it is. They don't need a global currency to control the game. But that's what you get. You're going to get people insisting that it's happening. You don't understand. People who cite this Economist cover act as if they have some kind of special insight. They heard something that no one knows about, like AC chain and anything. It's not going to happen. But that's not going to stop the stories. Here we go. Gold broker. Shock the world. Rock global markets. New global currency set to rock global markets. Triple alert, bombshell, must read, all this stuff. You're going to see these stories that it's proof. There it is, the Rothschilds 1988 prediction. You got the eagle here. That's supposed to be, I mean, that's Bitcoin. They knew about it back then. Yep. Unfortunately, that is what gets the channels that promote this kind of nonsense. They get the most views. They get people insisting that this stupidity is true and it's going to be true. And they get ardent defenders. They'll tell me I'm a globalist shilk. Just I don't believe it. And here's the guy. This guy, I guess he just didn't understand. He was pointing out that this was hyperbole that I was saying was going to rock the global markets and shock the world, not realizing I'm kidding. And well, in any event. Now, just quickly, shifting sands. We're going to discuss politics at the end, but this is something interesting that's happening. Ever since the tax reform was passed, you see some of the never-Trumpers actually not just softening their tone, but sucking up to Donald Trump. This guy, Bob Corker, I wrote Bib Corker, that's a mistake, I didn't mean that. A month or so ago, he said that Trump was basically debasing the country, debasing the nation. And then he comes out and he says he approved what the Trump administration is doing on especially Ivanka Trump. And it's like, that's strange. And he's quitting too, so he won't be around. Now, Lindsey Graham, who has been a never-Trumper, against Trump, he's now saying that there needs to be a special counsel to investigate. Oh, no, yes. Not only was Lindsey Graham against Donald Trump, he was trying to set up something whereby Trump couldn't fire Mueller. So basically, that was important. We got to find out what's going on with the Russians. That's what he was saying. And you want a lawyer? You can't have a lawyer. He was very much against Trump, and he wanted it seemed like he wanted Trump to go down. But now Lindsey Graham is saying he wants a special counsel to investigate this Trump dossier and how the FBI came about it and started the whole investigation in the first place. So yeah, so there you got Lindsey Graham then and now, and I'm not saying he's a big proponent of Trump, but he's definitely taking his side, whereas before he was definitely against them. All right, blockchain, again, you just put blockchain behind your name and bingo, your evaluation goes higher. Busy week in this crypto. Yeah, Cardano. You go to their website, try to figure out what the heck this thing is. It's under construction. It has a $20 billion market cap. Excuse me, this is worse than the dot-com era. This is just, I don't know, Cardano, $20 billion. But what we're seeing, I think, there's some kind of manipulation going on. It is mania for sure, but we're looking at these companies like Cardano, Ripple, NEM, Stella, IOTA, the ones that like are under a couple of bucks, or a couple of weeks ago were in the pennies, and they seem to be getting the boost. Now, just because they're pennies doesn't mean they're cheap, because if you have 38 billion or 60 billion, those pennies add up. But what we saw the last week was the companies with the low floats, like Bitcoin and Litecoin and Dash, but with higher prices, they didn't do as well as the companies with the low prices, not the low valuations, but the low prices, like 34 cents, 18 cents. They went up significantly. And I guess you can kind of create that environment if you have people selling their Bitcoin and then buying these, quote, cheap coins. Then you get people fear of missing out. They see the thing go from 13 cents to 42 cents. And they think, oh, I can still get it before it goes to $1. Then it goes to $1. Then it goes to $1.50. So I don't think people realize when they buy this that Cardano, you know, maybe it's 88 cents. It's still worth $20 billion because there's billions of tokens out there. And here you go. Now, Bitcoin effect. This is India. Cryptocurrency exchange seeing long queues. I've heard from people here in the United States having trouble getting taking time to get their accounts approved. There is a rush into, you know, getting onto an exchange and starting your gambling. So I don't see this stopping anytime soon. And I do see money going in and out of these small, so-called small cryptos, which really aren't small. People chasing those, dumping them, chasing something else. And so I wrote here, look for rotation out of Ripple, Cardano, and Stellar, and Tron into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. That's started to happen towards the end of the week as those coins sold off, and then Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin went up higher. So we're seeing that happen already. Now, Ripple, what people need to know about Ripple, CME Ventures, which is owned by the CME Group, which runs the COMEX Futures Exchange, which runs COMEX Gold, Silver, and Bitcoin Futures, Well, they're invested in Ripple. People need to realize that Ripple is a company. It is not a decentralized cryptocurrency that was just issued like Bitcoin or Litecoin. There's like people behind it. They raise money. They gave out tokens. They have investment. And yeah, here, the CME Group Ventures that's running BTC Futures is invested in Ripple. Here you got Ben Bernanke. He was at blockchain conference. Tech is promising. He backs Ripple. This was back in October. I just retweeted it. Here he says, Bitcoin will fail. This is Bernanke, but he likes blockchain and Ripple. Well, that should tell you all you need to know, that they're going to say, yeah, we like blockchain, we like the technology, but they want control over it. That Ripple is a centralized blockchain. Bitcoin, Litecoin are not. So there's no one to go to. There's no one to manipulate. Can't change stuff the way, can't conduct monetary policy the way you can with something that's centralized. And now take Tron, for example. Ripple team members investing in Tron. So if they want to create almost this alternative, controlled crypto space with these companies. And also the reason that Ripple had gone up during the week was there had been lots of speculation that Coinbase, the US's largest crypto exchange and probably the third or fourth largest in the world, was going to add Ripple changing. Coinbase pretty much denied that they were going to be adding anything soon, so that slowed the price of Ripple down as well. Bernanke banker coin Ripple drops below $3. I think it's back above $3 again. But here's an interesting one. Now, I'm not cutting on this guy. This guy supposedly is the genius or brainchild behind Tron coin, or Tron, and it was worth $20 billion earlier in the week. It's still worth like 12, 13 billion dollars. It's supposed to be a decentralized internet. It's pie in the sky and it's very ambitious. It's not the only one that's trying to do this. But this guy gave a Periscope, and I don't know how old he is, but apparently it didn't go over very well because he couldn't get it set up, and then he was complaining he had to talk to his marketing manager. I mean, the company's worth $20 billion, and presumably this guy's got a good, I think he's got 20-30%. I don't know what he has, but he certainly's got enough money from these, but supposedly they're locked up. But in any event, if you're going to be running an organization like Tron and it's worth $20 billion, you should be able to run Periscope either on your own because you're a technical genius, or have a marketing manager that somehow can figure this stuff out for you. And I watched about 10 minutes of it and I thought it was amateur hour. That doesn't mean the guy doesn't know about Tron and everything he's doing. It just tells me that these things are very pricey. People are just buying them because they're going up. They don't know who's behind them. They don't really care. They saw it was 42 cents and it went to 70 cents. So that's all they need to know. Actually, I think Tron was like 2 cents or 1 cent, and it went to like 8 cents and then 20 cents. You get the percentages are big, even though the cents aren't that much. But when there's billions of coins, it ends up being a multi-billion-dollar market cap. Now, Ethereum went up to $1,000. That one's on a run. We'll see where that heads. Record high. Remember, Coinbase only has 3 coins: Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. It's a lot for people to even get to the point where they have that account. So there's almost a built-in demand for those coins. Now, let's talk about our favorite dollar collapses. Is Venezuela still accepting Chinese yuan for their oil? You see, the Venezuela is such a mess, and it's so obvious that it's a mess. They can't even get gasoline in their own country when they produce the oil. They have starving people, and yet I would say gold bugs, the gold lunatics are like, this is game over for the dollar because Venezuela is accepting Chinese yuan for their oil. And then also the other game changer is this backward, bankrupt country is going to issue a cryptocurrency. That's going to end dollar hegemony. I don't know what they're thinking about that. That's a scramble to do anything they possibly can. Who's going to... I just don't get how anyone even thinks that Venezuela is threatening dollar hegemony, an end game for the dollar. Here's some more stories on Litecoin. Now, Litecoin is going to launch on one big Japanese exchange. We're going to talk about Japan. Japan is very interesting for cryptocurrencies, because they are realizing that there's a wealth effect, and Japan desperately needs to get out of the funk it's been in for 30 years. They have a aging population, they have a slowing economy. They need a shot in the arm, and it looks like the crypto is giving it to them, because market cap is high, it's legal there, they've got exchanges there. So Japan is not necessarily looking to shut down Bitcoin or anything like that. Now, this one drives me absolutely crazy. I don't even know why this is news anymore. Anyone who thinks they're going to make a name for themselves, or somehow thinks that they're brilliant for calling Bitcoin a bubble, I think is an idiot. Because it's obvious that the price has risen to the point where you don't have to have much intelligence or much observational capacity to realize, well, look how high it's gone in such a short period of time. So your knee-jerk reaction, even if you are a moron, is it's a bubble. Well, of course, that's what you would think. You have to look. I mean, I don't even know why CNBC even covered this guy to say, oh, it's a bubble. And the thing is, he called the last two crash. So everybody's trying to make a name for themselves, calling Bitcoin a bubble, when it might crash. But the one different thing that I've noted, and I've been noting all this time, is the difference is Bitcoin has crashed at least 4 or 5 times, from big highs down, and it's come back. Other bubbles, tulip bubble, you haven't heard about tulips rising in price since the 1600s, or whatever that bubble was supposed to have happened. .com bubble ended, done. Only Amazon made it, eBay, Yahoo kind of made it. That was about it. There weren't many other companies that made it. Bitcoin has collapsed, and the bubble has burst many times, and then it brings along with it Litecoin, Tron, all these other cryptocurrencies. So this is different, and I think if you want to be somewhat intelligent, just saying it's a bubble, I think it's almost shows a lack of intelligence, and it's just a cliche. I want somebody to try to figure out and give me some insight as to, if it's different, why is it different, and what's going to happen? Because no one seems to know, other than people that think they know are insisting it's over and it's going to collapse, and that's the end of it. This is something like we've never seen before. Remember, tulips are always tulips. It's not like people discovered, oh, look at tulips. Wow, this is a new thing. We never saw those before. This is a lot different. All right, crypto regulations. Now, China, here's an interesting point. China shut down all the exchanges last year. You would have thought, well, they were where most of the trading was happening. That should have been the end of it. No, the whole market has doubled or tripled since. The whole crypto market since China shut it down. There's this whole issue that Bitcoin uses a lot of electricity. A lot of the big miners are in China. China's going to regulate them. The central bank, people like China, has the power to do it. It hasn't affected anything, really. Egypt. This is Sharia law. I don't know all the ins and outs of who has the right to declare something compliant or not compliant. I don't know if there's some kind of global Islamic law, but Egypt, and it says Egypt's Dar yesterday issued a fatwa Islamic ruling that deems Bitcoin virtual currency is forbidden by Islam. I don't know if that means that this Egyptian ruling covers all of Islam. But again, it didn't have any impact whatsoever on the price. Now, the SEC is targeting, obviously, initial coin offerings. Interestingly enough, a company like Ripple would come under the SEC's purview, because there's an issuer and there's a company and there's investors. So that one's a little different than Bitcoin. It's just out there. There's no one running Bitcoin. There's no one to sue. There's no place to go get them. So we'll see how they view Ripple. My guess would be they're going to be very, very kind to Ripple. You got Ben Bernanke likes it. It's invested by the CME group. I think they'll leave Ripple alone. SEC warns on Bitcoin cryptocurrency risk. Well, of course. And you don't need the SEC to tell you that something goes up from 3 cents to $4, that it might be risky. But I guess they think they need to tell you that, because Yeah, Texas regulator orders BitConnect to cease and desist marketing securities. Yeah. Again, there's federal regulations, state regulations, different nation regulations. They're all going to take their swing at it and see what they can get. Now, central banks and Bitcoin. A few of the Bitcoin friends I have were always telling, oh, the central banks are going to hold Bitcoin. I said, that's ridiculous. Why would they hold Bitcoin? Well, here's a guy, at least Ghana, urges the Bank of Ghana to diversify its investment by placing some of its funds in Bitcoin. So I guess these people who've been following Bitcoin for years, obsessed with it, some of their thoughts are coming true. Now, Bulgaria government shocked to discover it owned $3 billion in Bitcoin. They had gotten these Bitcoin, just like the U.S. government did when they shut down the Silk Road, I think it was. You know, they got the Bitcoins when they weren't worth that much. Well, Bulgaria had some fraud in its country, and they picked up some Bitcoin. Well, now they own 18% of their national debt they can write off just by selling these Bitcoins. They don't hold them because they went out and bought them, but they indeed do have them. Now here's again, the gold tiptoes higher on longest winning streak ever, as we mentioned at the top of the program. So it's a good way of putting it, tiptoeing. It didn't burst higher, but it went up every day for 11 straight days. Germans invest heavily in gold in 2017. And this is a misnomer because they didn't invest heavily in gold. They invested heavily in their exchange-traded products. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of people are, what they say when they buy gold, they're not called ETFs in Germany. They're called, I think they're called ETPs. I'm not sure, but it's the same concept. There's just a different German name for them. Something for people who don't know what drives Indian gold demand besides Indians' love for gold. It drives the ability of Indians to buy gold, and much of India is agricultural. And when they have monsoons, big monsoon rainy season, their crops do better. And when their crops do better, they don't just have enough crops to feed themselves. They have enough to sell the surplus. And when they have surplus rupee, they immediately go down to the jeweler or the gold shop and they buy gold with it. So gold demand is tied to the weather in India and the fortunes of the Indian farmers. Sudan turns out over 100 tons of gold. It's interesting that they're turning out to be a pretty big gold producer. American Gold Eagle sales fell. We covered that story. There's a video for you to watch. Click here or on the YouTube or BitChute. Silver, CNBC saying silver could bring good luck to investors in 2017. Well, that would be nice. Some silver finds, Scotland's early silver. If anyone's in Scotland, wants to go to the National Museum of Scotland and check out some early silver discoveries that they have on display there. Large silver reserve discovered in Inner Mongolia. Now, this is from the Chinese news outlet. Also, I found it in another outlet. But the story is that they found 100 tons of gold, which is about 3.2 billion ounces, which is a little more than 3 times the annual silver mining production. Now, it sounds like it's a lot of silver, but remember, they're not going to haul it all out of the ground in one swoop. So it's not 3 billion tons are going to come onto the market in 1 year. Probably maybe 10% of that will come out each year. So instead of being 800, 900 million ounces of silver a year, maybe we'll go to 1.2, 1.3 billion ounces of silver produced a year because of this find. But then again, it's in part of China, and that silver is probably not going to go anywhere anyway. So I don't expect this to have any impact on the supply dynamic, other than maybe giving a little comfort to the other silver producers, where like Mexico, maybe, well, that's where the other producers, where China doesn't have to import as much silver as it has been. And Silver Eagle sales fall to their lowest level since 2007. We covered this. You can check out the video. You can see it was the lowest amount since 2007. Gold, silver, and bullion dealers now accepting Bitcoin are AppMex, Amagi Metals, Bullion Star, GoldSilver.com, Gold Money, Jam Bullion, Miles Franklin, Money Metals Exchange, Provident Metals, Shift Gold, Silver.com. So interesting that bullion dealers, very smart to accept Bitcoin. Even smarter to accept Litecoin, because if you accept Bitcoin, there's high fees, and it might be a disincentive for people to spend their Bitcoin at a bullion dealer, even though they have big profits because of the fees. But Litecoin is very little fees, and people have profits in Litecoin. And I would imagine anyone who's sitting on profits in cryptocurrencies might want to diversify. And if I were a bullion dealer, I would accept the cryptocurrencies just to get that additional customer who has the ability to buy. Global debt hits record 233 trillion. Unbelievable. Now, goldpumper.com. What do we have in Gold Pump this week? Well, just an observation. This asset infatuation that some people have with silver or gold or Bitcoin. I like to say Litecoin is life. That's a joke. It creates emotional imbalances as perceived insults against an asset devoutly worshipped can cause hysterical outbursts. You try to tell somebody who believes in silver and thinks your integrity is tied to whether you like silver or not, they're going to lose it. Same with gold. You tell a gold bug gold isn't money, oh, you're in trouble. You tell a Bitcoin head that Bitcoin is just a string of numbers, you're in big trouble. You're not just an idiot. You're going to block you. I'm going to talk to you. Now, let's get to my friend Mike Maloney here, who called me out in this particular video because I told him there was no source to this idea that the yuan-backed oil futures exchange, the yuan-denominated oil futures exchange was going to be backed or exchangeable into gold. And he said, what source? I'll give you a source. And he lists the Asian Nikkei review. Well, first of all, that's not a source. That's just a story repeating nonsense. That's not a source. But so far, there's been no indication that this yuan-denominated oil futures contract, which hasn't been launched yet, which should launch next week, or they say will launch next week, that there's any gold in it whatsoever. So I'm waiting on Mike to tell me where the gold is. Here it is. Game changer for gold. Okay, game changer. Game over. Shock the world. Yeah. Part of the whole gold pumper is this prediction for the new world currency. It's going to rock the global markets. Here's one. Venezuelan oil-backed cryptocurrency to launch in days. And this is supposed to be like a game changer along with them accepting yuan. It's a buffoon. It's not going to change anything. All right, Asian Nikkei review. Well, this one is good. Powers that be delete key portion of this guy's audio interview. They did not want broadcast to the public. Of course that happened. Well, this one here. This one is good. People forget this one. This one came out last year in the middle of the year. And this is from Jim Rickards. America's in for a rude awakening. And here he's trying to say that the world is going to go to the SDR as a global currency. You can read this. I can't even. First of all, the world's not going to go to an SDR. In order to go to an SDR, 85% of the SDR is an IMF creation. 85% of the nations have to agree that that's what they want to do. Well, first of all, if the United States doesn't want to do it, they have 16.5% of the vote. So the United States has automatic veto power against that. Second of all, why would any of the countries in large numbers want an SDR? Because the SDR is basically, first of all, the SDR is not even a global currency. SDR is basically requires there to be 5 other currencies in order to get an SDR because it's based on a benchmark off of yuan, yen, pounds, dollars, and euro. So it's not even a global currency. It's based on those. So it's not going to happen in, but this ties into the Economist cover. I guess that's clickbait as far as I can tell. Sun Tzu, Art of War, what is game change? Oh, yeah, China plans to send gold prices dramatically higher. Of course they do. Game changer. Well, this one's interesting. I don't know where they come up with this. Economic Times of India. Silver price is likely to rocket by mid-year on solar push. So now they didn't go higher when India and Germany completed very large solar projects in 2014-15. In fact, they were lucky. As they were completing those projects and getting the silver for those projects, the price dropped. So we'll see. The other thing about solar energy is they use less and less silver per panel now than they did 5, 10, 15 years ago. Same with electronics. They're figuring out ways to use less silver, even though they're making more panels, making more electronics. They use less silver per unit now. Buried gold. You check this out. Roman gold coins in Cornwall, medieval gold coins. This one, India loses a lot of gold. They say is part of e-waste, and that we know. There's gold and silver in those old iPhones and electronics. This woman here, she found Roman coins. She says a hoard of 8 coins. I don't know if that's a hoard, but at least it's 8 interesting coins that she did find on the side of the road, walking around just with that little metal detector. You can't find that in the United States. There weren't any Romans here dropping silver coins and forgetting where they dropped them. Here's the story again on the vast silver reserve discovered in northern China. Go to the Smaulgld website. You can check out the links, read about it yourself. More gold seizures. It's always in India. People going into India seizing, and they get their gold seized. This guy Harker on the Fed says 2 rate hikes appropriate this year. Let's talk about my favorite country, China's vision of peace and harmony through trade in sound money and gold. That's the gold bug's vision of China. Well, here they're saying, the Russian news agency, that China's new economic challenge requires more debt. Well, here's China's central bank injects more funds in December via liquidity tools. That's printing money. Just another $32 billion. That's all they need. Here, China's NHA, this is a loan group, delays loan repayments to investors and employees. They're doing just fine. Now, my point about China all along is the gold's not going to go up because there's going to be some kind of gold-backed yuan, which next week, by the way, I'm going to show once and for all why that's not going to happen. Just for now, we'll just say there's a lot of reasons it won't happen, but next week I'm going to tell you why exactly it's not going to happen. Gold's not going to go up because of Chinese gold-backed yuan or ruble or all these fantasies about gold triangle, and they're going to have the yuan denominated contract create gold demand drains from the LPMA. No, it's going to, if gold goes up for any reason that has anything to do with China, it's going to be because their debt Ponzi scheme collapses. Here I am arguing with Luke, trying to tell me that their gold will go a long way to preventing a collapse. Now, they don't have enough gold. Even at the high end of the estimates and the fantasies, and you revalue gold to $10,000, $20,000, doesn't even come close to the amount of debt that they have, domestic, internal and external debt. Yes, it could, he says. It could. It could help them. It will help them. China is going to be fine. They have gold. Everything's fine when you have gold. Don't worry. Just remember that. Yeah, a debt collapse in China would result in massive civil unrest and totalitarian response from the Chinese government, which is used to calling all the shots. I say gold would be irrelevant in solving the problems of their own creation. And, yeah. They'd probably have to hold a few public executions as part of their sound money gold-based nirvana that ends dollar hegemony. Here they are. Chinese court sentences drug dealers to death in front of thousands of people in the Guangdong province. It's not funny. The gold bugs don't understand. All they understand is China. They see China as gold. I think everything in China is great because they have gold. Then they were saying, well, they could just, if it did collapse, the argument was that they could just print up yuan. Well, first of all, they can't even print it up now, and they haven't even had a debt collapse. No one wants the Chinese yuan right now. They'd have to sell their gold in between executing their citizens. Look, this is a demand for Chinese yuan or renminbi right here. There it is. Okay, so if their country were to collapse because of a debt collapse, who's going to take it if they don't take it now? They're going to take it after that. But they have gold. Well, then they'd have to sell the gold, and they wouldn't have that either. Game changer. There it is. Gold back yuan. Nikkei Asian Review. As predicted, no gold. Ah, now here's a story. Zero heads. Now everybody's now talking about the petro yuan, although this picture has some gold there. But then I don't mention any gold anymore. No gold involved in the petro yuan looms. How China will shake up the oil's futures. Maybe. There's somewhat of a big deal going on when they have these futures. There's no oil delivered under the contract. We'll see how it goes, but there's certainly not any gold involved. Now they also, we never said there was any gold involved in the first place. Okay. Some people did, and some people insisted and continue, or haven't retracted their view that there's going to be some gold backing or gold exchangeability. Zero has Chinese regulators step up oversight on leveraged bond trading. China will not rest until every asset class is centrally planned. Yeah, China tells the media, stop reporting on Iran unrest. Yeah, okay. And then Trump steps up efforts to check China influence in Latin America. Experts say Chinese short seller faces, quote, execution risk. Game changer here. China says yuan can be used for carbon emissions trading domestically. Well, that'll get people using the yuan. You got to have those carbon emission trading chits back and forth, and you can use the yuan for that. Maybe you can even use them in cross-border. Good luck with that. Confidence building for the game-changing Chinese yuan. What was this story? I think I might have missed this one here. China admits 2016 GDP was miscalculated after routine verification. So now they're saying the economy is going to grow in 2018 at less than 7%. They need like 40% growth to even pay for some of the stuff that they've done. It's not going to happen. Now, they keep talking about Belt and Road. It's 7 times the size of the Marshall Plan. Yeah, and the Marshall Plan helped rebuild areas that were proven productive areas. China borrowed money to build roads and bridges in Kazakhstan. Is not going to add any value for decades, if at all. And I say Belt and Road may be the biggest Chinese debt Ponzi scheme ever. Jason Barak over Wall Street for Main Street mentioned to me that this is a way of getting some of the workers, get work and get them out of China so that when it collapses, they're not there to riot. That's a very insightful point of view. That could be definitely true. Problem is, then they're going to be in the middle of nowhere when the collapses, and the bridge that they're building somewhere in Inner Mongolia doesn't get built. Then what are they going to do? Well, I guess they won't be able to come back to China very easily and cause a riot. Yeah, so Belt and Road is one of these, I call it, if you build it, they will come projects. It's not just like the other, lot of activity in China. It's not a market response to a need. China's figuring, okay, we build all this, then we create economic activity. Well, then we have the infrastructure in place. It's cart before the horse. So China, the need is not a market need. It's a need that China needs to manufacture GDP. And they've already overbuilt their own country. They built too many ghost cities and bridges to nowhere. So we'll see what happens there. Now, here's de-dollarization. China-backed AIB may launch U.S. dollar bond by end of June. Now, we saw also China, the nation, introduced a $2 billion U.S. dollar denominated bond late last year. Point is that all this nonsense about dollar, de-dollarization, not true. China runs on dollars. And that's something that has been drilled into people's heads by the gold community, that China is in de-dollarization and it's death to the dollar and the dollar collapse. Dollars had the worst year in 12 years. The dollar index is lower than it was last year, higher than it was over the last 10 years. Chinese bank told to issue dollar-denominated debt sources. Yeah, okay, all right. Big numbers out of the U.S. Factory activity accelerated. Construction spending at record high. Very interesting. Can't give Trump any credit for that. U.S. trade deficit rises to near 6-year high on record imports. So still, a weaker dollar, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get more imports. No. Did I say that correctly? Strong dollar, you get more imports. So the deficit has been rising. What the U.S. wants for more exports is a lower dollar, but still, that hasn't turned around. Here's Mitt Romney. Now, there's a carpetbagging politician. So Orrin Hatch decides he's not going to run for re-election in Utah, and Mitt Romney, the same day, changes his area of governor of Massachusetts. All of a sudden, now he's from Utah. He's not a Massachusetts guy. He's from Utah. Shock. Congressional investigators find irregularities in FBI handling a Clinton email case. That was obvious the way Comey explained what he did. We'll see if anything comes out of it now. Bannon quit. I guess, and Trump then called him Sloppy Steve. So this political drama never ends with Trump. But one of the things we do see is there is this group of people that actually believe that Trump is knee-deep in Russian collusion, and they want him out, and they don't care what happens, and they want Mueller to take him down. They don't care about the rule of law. As long as they get Trump, they're happy. What's interesting is, I was pointing out in this quick conversation, is that Flynn and Manafort pled to crimes or whatever, nothing to do with Trump and Russia in the campaign. So this is basically scope creep. Mueller's got to get them for something, and people are cheering this on. Well, see, this proves collusion. No, it doesn't. First of all, collusion is even a crime. This doesn't prove anything other than Flynn lied and Manafort didn't get the licenses he should have had 10 years ago to be doing his Russian deals. So I say few are objectively observing or even blinded by their hatred or love for Trump. No one's really looking at this objectively. Many would abandon the rule of law just to get Trump. Now, if you look at it objectively, there are things that Hillary Clinton did factually. I'm not even drawing a legal conclusion, but her dealings with the private server, her dealings with classified information, her dealings with Russia, you could look at those and say, well, those are facts that we know about that should be investigated. And yet with Trump, there's no facts that we found, but yet people are insisting he must be involved with Russia. And interestingly enough, just as I was writing this came across the wire. Paul Manafort sued special counsel Russell Mueller, saying he exceeded authority in Russia probe. That's true, because what Mueller got Manafort on had nothing to do with what he was supposedly investigating. So the whole basis for the Russian investigation, the election, and only focusing on Trump, is purely political. And nailing Manafort for his lack of registering as a foreign agent in his private business is far outside of the special counsel's scope, who should never have been, in my opinion, appointed in the first place. That what they should have done was have a congressional investigation into Russian interference in the election on both sides, all sides. Maybe they were helping, what's her name, Jill Stein or Hillary, we don't know. A congressional investigation would have been objective, but instead they assumed wrongdoing on the Trump side, and they decided they're going to try to find the wrongdoing. Also, you had Comey insist, almost looking to get a special counsel appointed, and also looking to create a obstruction of justice charge against Trump, and then he leaks confidential classified information to a professor for the purposes that he admitted to Congress to give to the New York Times. So this is not a law. This is the FBI acting basically to try to get rid of an elected president. And for people who don't like Trump, they think, well, that's fine. They want to get rid of him. My problem with it is if you're against Trump, there's plenty of lines of attack. You want to abandon the rule of law and just have people in government working somehow through their apparatus of government to get rid of him? That's very dangerous, because what they don't realize, the same with the Bernie Sanders thing that I was talking about at the top of the show. What happens when Trump has all of his people in eventually, if he lasts 8 years? They can turn around and they can send the IRS after them. They can turn around and send the FBI after their political enemies. You should be wanting a rule of law challenge to the president, a ballot challenge to the president. Not, we got to get rid of him, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use the FBI, the CIA, whatever we can do. I think it's very, very dangerous to approach it that way. Now, Jeff Sessions decides in all this, the guy has recused himself from the Russian investigation, then he should never, ever have been appointed Attorney General. Hasn't really done anything that I can see other than ignoring the Clinton crimes. He then decides, well, what the states have done, he's not going to allow them to do it. They've decided, the states have ruled to have this legal marijuana. He doesn't like it. There's federal laws that it contradicts. Now, what's interesting is constitutionally, there probably shouldn't even be federal laws on drugs. They probably shouldn't be regulating that. That should be a state issue. But they've taken that power, and there are federal laws against marijuana. I think marijuana is like a class, I don't know the classification, but it's not like misdemeanor. It's considered up there with some of the harder drugs. But the states have legalized it. Even some of them have made it recreational. So it's not like you need some medical rationale for it. Well, Sessions is having none of this. Now, no one ran on that. It wasn't like Trump ran. In fact, Trump actually said that was a state's issue when he ran. So some of these Republicans are saying, look, he's got to go because he hasn't really been effective for the things we want. And I don't know if the marijuana thing had anything to do with it, but this clearly is not an issue that people were hammering the Justice Department that when Trump got in, he was going to go after these states that had legalized marijuana. You got Lou Dobbs saying he should go here. The interesting thing, though, about Sessions, possibly, and I don't know if this is true, but it's possible that Trump has been wanting to get rid of Sessions. And if he were to get rid of Sessions for not going after Hillary, or they would say it was political, just like when they said he fired Comey. But if he can get rid of Sessions on saying, look, I don't want you to go after the medical marijuana or even the recreational marijuana, then his opponents can attack him for getting rid of Sessions, for not being more aggressive on Clinton, for recusing himself on Russia. Then he can bring in another attorney general who will do those things. We'll see. I don't know. I just think it was bad. It was bad politics for Sessions to insert himself in something that is not really an issue for a lot of people. And it wasn't one of Trump's campaign issues, and Trump actually said in an interview that this is a state issue. So now what people don't realize, this video here is, you can't really tell it, but you go to the website, you can click on it and see that Bill Clinton fired everyone in the FBI. He had Janet Reno do it. So that's not unprecedented, that can happen. And I don't think that's good. Basically, if you're an FBI agent and you work in the FBI, and just because you were appointed by the prior administration, you shouldn't be appointed because you have a certain outlook. You should be appointed as an FBI agent because you want to fight crime. There shouldn't be a different set of crime fighting that you're interested in. So if Trump were to do that, you'd never hear the end of it. Bill Clinton did it, and probably a lot of those people are still there today. And we saw there's some very anti-Trump people thinking that they had to prevent Trump from becoming president. That's not the job of the FBI. FBI is to investigate crimes. And what Comey did when he made he's not even supposed to make a recommendation. He's supposed to present that to the Attorney General. The Attorney General decides whether he or she is going to bring charges. Now they're saying the Justice Department is investigating the Clinton Foundation over pay to play. So this ties into my theory that perhaps Jeff Sessions will get fired, but the new guy won't be tasked with starting this investigation because now it's already started. So they can't say, well, we brought the new guy in to start the investigation. Sessions already started it, and now the new guy can vigorously investigate the Clinton Foundation and anything else. Yeah, this is unbelievable. FBI chief FOIA officer says every single memo Comey leaked was classified. He shouldn't be leaking anything. He is supposed to be... To me, it's unfathomable that an FBI agent, the head of the FBI, would be leaking stuff to a professor for the explicit purpose. He had the nerve to tell Congress that this is for the New York Times so it gets out there and we get a special counsel. That's not his job. That undermines the whole process. Now here's Barbara Streisand, old Babs. Now she's an anti-Trumper. Collusion and no collusion. Donald Trump should be impeached for sheer stupidity. Okay. First of all, what impeach means is to charge with a crime. So being stupid isn't a crime or misconduct. So I wrote to her, if stupidity was a crime, your tweet would have you arrested. All right, what else we got? I think we're almost to the end here. Well, one on voter fraud. So NPR, I don't know why they still fund this. President Trump dissolved the controversial Commission on Election Integrity, which was supposed to investigate widespread voter fraud, which credible experts say didn't exist. Now, the reason they shut down the commission was the states weren't giving them the documents that they wanted so they can conduct the investigation. But they just automatically assume credible experts say it doesn't exist. So I say, did the credible experts get to review the data the states refused to provide to the Trump administration? Seems that the only thing credible experts on elections believe is that Russia can influence elections, but not thousands of unregistered voters. I happen to know for a fact, when I went to vote, I moved town, so I was not registered. So I went to the place where I should vote, and I said, I'm not registered. They said, well, you could do it same day. So I give them my ID, they write it down, and they let me vote. Okay. Now, I could have done that in every town across the state if I wanted to. And you say, well, no, you can't do that. That's fraud. Of course it's fraud. What if I had a fake ID? They never took my ID, looked at it, typed it into a database, looked at me and said, well, that's you, okay. I could have gone everywhere. You could have busted in 100 of me, given me all fake IDs, sent me across all the different but send people all across the state and multiple times. And then when are they going to check it? They could check it after the election, but by then it's too late. So my point is, anyone who says that voter fraud, it's impossible, what does that even mean? To me, I'm not even thinking like a criminal, but I can see how you could, in certain ways, bust people in with fake IDs and have them vote. Usually just retired people sitting there, they look at it, they write down the information on a piece of paper, and they send you into the ballot box. They don't check anything, and I doubt they check it afterwards, and by then it's too late anyway. The election results have already been certified, and the person's been elected. Well, that does it. One last thing, we did have our Smaulgld subscriber sound off. We had a guest, Cardwell Lynch. He came on and talked about crypto regulation, a bunch of other things, so please check that out on the BitChute and also on the Smaulgld YouTube channel. Thank you very much. By the way, if you're interested in buying gold or silver, please consider doing so through the Smaulgld site at BGSC, Gold and Eagle Coins, ST Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, and compare pricing and shipping at those dealers. You pay no more no less than if you visited those sites directly. But Smaulgld gets a small commission if you do indeed buy from them. Not investment advice to buy gold and silver, but you can buy and get a good deal. Also, consider donating to Smaulgld via PayPal, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, or consider becoming a Smaulgld patron. Thank you very much.